Ugh. Looks like the room is going to tip over. Everyone's over.
Oh, yes.
Tiresias, you who encompass all things with your mind, those suitable for teaching and things mystic, both heavenly and earthbound worlds. Although your eyes can't see, you know the way this city is afflicted. You are the only shield and rescue we can find, my lord. In case you have not heard this news, Apollo has replied to us when we inquired that there is only one solution for this plague. We must unmask the murderers of Laius for sure, and either sentence them to death or else expel them, exiles from this land. So please do not withhold what means you have, a message from your birds or any other root of prophecy to clear yourself and city and clear me as well, to clear away the whole miasma from the murdered man. We are in your hands, and it's the finest kind of service for a man to use his powers as best he can.
It can be terrible to know what brings no benefit to him who knows it. I was well aware of this, but had forgotten. For otherwise, I never would have ventured here.
What's this? You're so reluctant in approaching.
Send me back home again. Take my advice. You'll find it's easiest for you to bear your burden and for me to carry mine.
Your words are not acceptable and are disloyal, refusing to respond to Thebes, the land that bred you.
Because I see your questing thought is off the mark. I would avoid the same mistake.
If you have knowledge, do not turn your back. We, all of us, as suppliants, beg of you.
Because you, all of you, are ignorant. I shall not open up my troubles and not yours with them.
You're saying that, though knowing you'll not speak? You mean to leave us all betrayed, destroy your city too?
I shall not further hurt myself or you. You question me for nothing, since you shall not learn from me.
You lowest of the low. You'd stir bad temper in a lump of stone. Are you refusing to tell anything? You mean to stand beyond our reach, intransigent.
You criticize my temperament, yet fail to see your own, which shares your life with you. And you fault me instead.
Yes, who would not be moved to temper when they hear words like these, insulting this, your city?
Events will turn out as they will, no matter if I cover them with silence.
What will turn out? That's surely what you should be telling me.
I shall explain no more. Feel free to rage at that as fiercely as you like.
All right. You've angered me so deeply that I'll not suppress what I suspect. It's my belief you helped hatch the plot and did the deed except for the actual killing with your hands. Had you the power of sight, I would have said that you alone had done this thing.
Is that the truth? Then I tell you, stand by your own decree that you proclaimed, and from this day do not address these men nor me, because you are the foul pollutant in this land.
You have the gall to stir this slander up. Oh, you can't believe that you'll get away with this.
I have escaped already. I bring up the truth to be my strength.
Who did you learn this stuff from? Not your craft, I think.
I learned from you. You pressed out words from me against my will.
What words? Repeat them to make sure I understand.
Did you not understand before? Is this a test?
Not so I fully understood. Repeat again.
I say, you are his murderer.
What?
The one you seek.
Redoubled insults. You shall regret these words.
Oh, then shall I tell you something to enrage you even more?
Say anything you want, it will be wasted breath.
I say that, unaware of it, you're living in a state of shame with those you hold most close. And you can't fathom how the place you're at is bad.
You shall not get away with saying things like this.
I shall, if there is strength in truth.
There is, with one exception, you. You have no part in this because your ears and brain are just as blind as are your eyes.
Poor fool. You cast all this abuse at me, and yet that same abuse will soon be aimed at you by every person here.
Your life has passed in one long night, and so you have no power to damage me or anyone with eyes that see the light.
It is your fate to fall, but not by any power of mine. Apollo is enough and shall accomplish what he will.
Oh, Creon. Are these inventions his idea or yours?
Creon presents no threat to you. You do yourself.
Oh, wealth and kingship and ambitious plans for ever higher steps in life's ascent. Oh, see how resentment gets stored up for you? To take control over this rule of mine, a gift unsought, donated by the city. It's for this that trusty Creon, my friend from the start, has been devising moves behind my back and hungering to throw me out. Oh, for this, he has deployed this old trick-spinning conjurer, this door-to-door spell-casting quack, who has his eye on profit only, while at his proper craft he's blind. How can you claim to have clear powers of prophecy? Back when the singing spinner bitch was here, how come you had no key to free these citizens? It's true, the riddle wasn't just for anybody's guess. It needed some prophetic skill. But you displayed no special wisdom from the birds or from the gods. But then I came along. I, know-nothing Oedipus. I put a stop to her and got the answer using just my wits, not learning from the birds. And I'm the man you're trying to eject, imagining that you yourself will stand beside the throne as Creon's right-hand man. But you and your conspirator will both regret attempting this scapegoating. If you did not appear so old, you would pay dear for harboring such faults.
It seems to us observers, this man's words and yours were spoken, Oedipus, in anger. But what we need is not outbursts like these, but thoughts on how we might best solve Apollo's oracle.
You may be king, but I still have an equal right to make reply. I also have this power because I am no slave to serve your beck and call. I am Apollo's, so do not write me down in Creon's list. And since you have insulted me as blind, now listen. You have your sight, yet do not see the truth of how the place you're at is bad, or where you live, or who that they are you share your home with. Do you know who you're from? You little realize you're an enemy to your own kin below the earth and here above. One day, the fearful-footed curse from father and from mother shall with double spike expel you from this land. You see things focused now, but then you shall see dark. There is no anchorage, no hollow of Catharon's mountainside that shall not resonate and echo to your cry. Once you have learned about your marriage song and what a treacherous harbor home you entered in full sail, thinking your voyage fair. And there's a further crowd of horrors which you'll find, enough to crush you and your children too. Now after that, go spread your smears all over Creon and my words. There is no human who shall be more harshly ground to dust than you.
I cannot bear to listen to any more of this man's raving. To hell with you. Best turn back around and hurry far off from this house.
I never would have come, not I, had you not called for me.
And if I'd known that you'd talk such lunacy, I never would have brought you near my home.
That's how I seem to you, a ranting lunatic. Your parents, though, who gave you life, they thought me sane enough.
What parents? Stop. Who were they? Gave me life?
This very day shall give you life, and shall unmake you too.
Your words are all enigmas, too obscure.
Aren't you the best enigma solver here?
Yes, mock at me. But that is where you'll find me great.
It was that very stroke of fortune that undid you.
I was the saving of this city. That's enough for me.
I'm going then. My boy, take me away from
Yes.
here.
Have him take you. You're nothing but a nuisance here. Once you've moved on, you'll give us no more grief.
Now, I'll go once I've had my say. I do not fear to face your frown, since there's no way that you can blot me out. I tell you then, this man you have been searching for with curses and decrees, the murderer of Laos, he is right here. Though said to be an immigrant, he shall be shown to be a true-born Theban, yet he'll take no pleasure in that turnabout. From somewhere who has sight, he shall turn blind. From someone rich, become a beggar. And then he'll make his way toward an alien land by probing for his footsteps with a stick. And he shall be revealed as brother and as father to the children that he has at home, as son and husband to the woman who once gave him birth, as fellow sower and as killer to the father who begot him. Now go inside and work that out. And if you can, then prove me false. Feel free to say there is no insight in my power of prophecy.
Hi, welcome to Reading Greek Tragedy online, in person, on site, the Center for Hellenic Studies in Washington, D.C. I'm Joel Christensen from Brandeis University. I'm delighted to be here with our actors today, with our special guests, David Van Schoor and Amy Cohen, and really just amazed to be able to travel and be around other human beings. We started this process with the support of the Center for Hellenic Studies over 3 years ago now. One of the first plays we returned to was Oedipus Tyrannos. And one of the reasons is that it, at the time, appealed to us. It's big, it's well known. Aristotle says it's awesome. Which is how I make all judgments in life. But it's also a play that's deeply, if not depressingly, familiar when it starts. There's a plague. People know what caused the plague and how to deal with it, but the people in charge won't do anything about it. Now, that may be a facile description of the beginning of Oedipus Rex, but it's also the beginning of the Iliad. And it was the entirety of March 2020 that lasted at least 3 years, by my best accounts. And so for this reason, the play draws us in. It's interested in politics, it's interested in the human condition, but at the core, it's interested in what's going on in Oedipus's brain, I think, because it's a metonym for what's going on in our own. And so there are so many different ways to talk about this play. David, Amy, come up. Come on, join me. We could probably go 1,000 hours on it and still not get all the way in. I promise you we'll stay till about 90 minutes today. But it's a play that has not exhausted interest in over 2,000 years and really keeps us going. So where the play starts is the chorus appealing to Oedipus to help us out. And I'm going to say us because I think we end up in the chorus because we're hopefully not Oedipus. And Oedipus says, oh, I'll solve it because he is the solver in charge, right? He is the riddle master in chief. And he sends Creon off to consult the oracle. Creon's on the way back, and we all know the plague's caused because the murderer of Laius is in the city. And so the scene we just saw with Tiresias and Oedipus is, the unfolding of everything everybody already knows. And so one of the things, David, I'll start with you. So generally, I would like to hear what keeps you coming back to Oedipus. But also, this first exchange between Tiresias and Oedipus, right? What's going on there? And what are some things in it that really pull you through the dialogue?
Well, something that strikes me from the beginning is that he addresses Tiresias as Anax, as a lord. And so the position from the beginning of the play, Oedipus is addressed as the lord of Thebes by the citizens, but there's a kind of reversal now. He becomes a suppliant, and he's asking for knowledge from Tiresias. And it's a play of reversals. And this is a trope in Greek tragedy. You mentioned the Iliad, that some figure who will turn out to be a tragic figure, like Agamemnon in the Iliad, consults an expert and then does not hear what he wants to hear, and then rejects the expertise. So knowledge and oracles and truth are foregrounded from the beginning. It's the central themes of this play, and how human beings exist between, and you find this in Plato as well, between knowing and ignorance, and that's our fate. That's an inescapable fate. It's the inescapable human situation in which we find ourselves today too.
So this opening, I'll call it a contest of words. These two, I think, is appropriate. It's filled with wordplay that doesn't always come through in English. I think this is Oliver Taplin's translation, and it's lively in ways. But what are some of the wordplay or stuff going on in the Greek that you'd like to let people know about?
Right. I have to look through my notes. Yeah. Well, at the very beginning, he talks about, in the first line, you who encompass all things with your mind. It's a very striking line. Those suitable for teaching and things mystic. And the Greek is areta and didacta. So that's ineffable things, unspeakable things, and teachable things. And I'm always drawn to kind of binaries and the dialectic throughout this play. The opposition or the placing in opposition of things like darkness and light, seeing and not seeing. And you have that in those first lines, heavenly and earthbound, things that are visible and invisible. And that gives a fundamental shape to the ideas of the play, but also the structure of the play and the way that the ideas and the plot or narrative, the way that they work together, I think is clearly why Aristotle thought this was the most perfect of plays.
And the way it sets up, so when I teach this play, I started out by saying, all right, this is CSI Thieves. And the reason is because, like, if we're watching a police procedural, we already know what the murder is and what happens. A lot of times we know who the murderer is as well. And so part of our interest and excitement is watching it all unfold, watching our protagonist figure it out, right? So this scene, like, it's almost risible, right? With how clearly Tiresias says, dude, it's you, you're the problem, right? We get right close to that Taylor Swift moment of recognition. But I wonder, so Amy, one of the things we've talked about before, so limits of performance and how it shapes the reception of the narrative. So how would this CSI Thieves be staged in a way that would support that sort of uncovering of information?
Well, I think you set it up really nicely to think about us all as Thebans, because I'm certain that that's part of it, right? So we're invested also in the success of the figuring it out, even like in the solving of the plague and wanting there to be a solution. I think you're also probably right that most of this audience already knows that Tiresias is right and is being quite direct about it, and Oedipus won't see was the word that actually was coming out of my mouth. And there's one of those opposites, blindness and seeing, of course, and the wordplay that I can't remember if it's exactly in that speech, but the ways in which Greek plays on seeing and knowledge is there too. So I think that Sophocles enjoys getting us invested in the investigation and how it is going to disrupt this world that seems to be going okay. That because Oedipus and Jocasta seem to be doing a pretty good job of running this place until there's this plague, they seem to be pretty happy with each other. I think he lets us see those things until it all explodes. And so in the scene that we just saw with Tiresias, I feel a little bit, and I think maybe audiences do too, yes, how could Oedipus not understand what Tiresias is telling him so directly? On the other hand, we kind of don't want him to figure it out either, right? That there's he's trying to do the right things. And we know, and Tiresias certainly knows, that is going to lead to terrible unhappiness, but he doesn't know that yet. And he's trying to see how to do things the right way. that's, so I didn't talk as much about staging as I might have, but those are the things that.
I'll come back to it.
Okay.
No, so David, I think before the pandemic, and I read this play, what I would say is that part of this, the Oedipal thing is about denial, right? I used to say to students, I don't smoke anymore, but I used to. I'm like, I know that smoking's bad for me, yet I persist in doing it, right? I'm willing to sort of have that level of denial that maybe it won't affect me, or maybe it's not that important. So I'm living with this fiction, right? But since 2020 and living online all the time and having the anti-vaxxers in our midst and conspiracy being part of everyday life, I wonder if there's more. Like, do you think people in the audience are rooting for Oedipus?
I certainly am.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up conspiracy, because just looking through everything in preparation of today and just looking at the language used, I was thinking of conspiracy theories, and this, what he says to Tiresias is a kind of the equivalent in 429 BC of saying there's a deep state behind this, right? And things are not as they seem, and I can see into your venal motives. And it's very striking, the reminiscences, not just of Homer, but of 25 years later in Bacchae. You have very similar scenes between Pentheus and Tiresias, where he says, oh, you're speaking obscurely, oh, you're being paid off, because he doesn't want to accept what's before him, the god Dionysus. So there are all these kinds of reminiscences, and being Oedipus is a metic. That's the Greek word for a resident alien, which is what I am in the United States since very recently. So very interested in American politics, obviously, which seems kind of
No, but
which seems kind of crazy and steered by this, as you said, the anti-vaxxers, this rejection of expertise. Did you see that all around the world? You see that in Great Britain, you see that in South Africa, where I'm from. You see xenophobia, and the relationship of citizens to foreigners is also a key, or an idea in this play, of who's inside and who's outside.
and there's something powerful about, I don't want to call it the will to believe, but instead the will to disbelieve, right? And to exert an individual weight on reality.
Yes, but can I just say something in defense of Oedipus? I mean, when Tiresias says in that striking line, "You are the murderer," I mean, it must be so insane to him. Why should he accept that? And then of course he thinks, oh well, you're clearly not. Oh, you must be being paid by someone, because obviously my parents are in Corinth, right? And then one of the things that have always struck me about Oedipus, and which is different from the kind of tyrants and wannabe tyrants you see around the world today, is that he has this integrity. And this is a theme brought up by Milan Kundera in his book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. He uses this Oedipus story as part of the plot. But basically he says that bureaucrats in the USSR, they would never tear out their eyes. They would never feel sorry. They don't have the integrity he's a fundamentally moral being, Oedipus, that he wants to know. And when he does know, he regrets it. If he were an African tyrant, he would just keep on living and pretending that everything was fine, as he's advised to do by Jocasta later.
And which Euripides might have him do. So Amy, back to the staging. So again, if we're having these tensions of sort of the will to believe or disbelieve, and then again, trying to make Oedipus someone you'd want to identify with, how do you put this on a stage in a way that makes it work?
Well, it is about how he relates to the other people on stage. So the chorus, and how they look to him. Some of it is really very much about, do they look frightened of him? Do they look respectful of him? Are they interested in what he's saying? Or you can easily make him look like a lunatic by having everybody react to him in a really negative way. But if there's a warmth on stage for him, we're gonna feel that too, and react to the things he says. If of course Oedipus is also reading the lines and acting in a way that supports that, we're going to see him as a leader trying to be his best. So there are, of course, any number of ways you can characterize Oedipus using Sophocles' words, but so you would use the chorus, you would use how he is greeted by the other people. Tiresias doesn't regret having come until he realizes what it's for, right? Tiresias comes when he's called. And I think then in that scene that we just saw, you show some of the things, you show how he is getting a little bit conspiracy theory, right? He goes, this doesn't fit into his framework of what he understands about himself. And he does get a little crazy, and you can make things a little bit violent. And Tiresias is old and blind, which you have to figure out how to show on stage, even though your actor is not, and anticipates the blindness that Oedipus is going to have later, which you also have to show, but in a different way. So those are some of the thoughts.
Those are great. And I think one of the things I always forget is that we get to look at these faces and listen to these voices up close with our videos. But in ancient stages, this wasn't the case at all. So this is the segue for your masks.
Oh,
so Amy,
well, would you like that?
like
Okay.
that.
So I am extremely fortunate to get to teach at Randolph College in Lynchburg, Virginia, where we have a Greek play tradition that goes back to 1909. And so we have this magnificent outdoor Greek theater, quite large, seats at least 1,000. The orchestra is 50, 60 feet across. And so I get to put on plays the way the Greeks did. And this is our Oedipus, already blinded, although I took the blood off of him, from 2014. And we continue to make masks for all of our plays, which we do every year. This was one from our last one, which was Trachiniae. This was a member of the chorus. So you have to figure out we didn't have to figure out how to blind anybody in Trachiniae. We did have to figure out about how to get Heracles to be gory and horrible. But we had to figure out how to blind Oedipus using a mask that he'd been wearing sighted. And we had to have, we needed to have Tiresias's blindness be different, right? Tiresias has been blind for a really long time. So we just had a gauze thing over him. And so it read as blindness, even from far away. And of course, our actor did a wonderful job of feeling her way. And we had a boy who was helping her and all of those things. But then when we had to blind him, it needed to be bloody because the chorus, the messenger that comes from the house talks about the chunks of blood and everything in the beard. So we had to do those things and make it bloody and blinded in a few minutes and read differently. So we blackened the whites with some gray gauze there, which worked pretty well from elsewhere. But we cleaned the blood off for later. Sorry.
Did that be reusable?
Well, it did. I mean, Sophocles only did one show, so he didn't have to make it reusable, but we did in fact have to test the blood and make sure that it could wipe off, because we did 4 or 5 performances. So, and we weren't going to make 4 or 5 masks.
So we're about to go back to the play. What are some sort of significant moments or themes you're looking forward to in the performance?
I'm looking forward to, well, I'm quite interested in desire and knowledge generally in Greek drama. So the challenge of bringing out the delicate ambiguities in these scenes is what I'm looking forward to in a play about knowing and simultaneously not knowing, these oppositions that somehow are included with one another in this. That's kind of the brilliance of this work. The Greeks were very smart about introducing the ideas and logic of this rules that art in what they called elenchus. But on the Greek stage, you have the rules of logic defied in a way that anyone intuitively understands. So it's also one of my favorite scenes where he talks about Corinth. He talks about someone in his cups saying that someone drunk saying that he was a bastard. The word in Greek uses plastos, like our word plastic, means something molded And again, in Euripides, that's also a word used for things that are false, people that are bastards, things that are not true. So again, playing in so many different ways and using so many different kinds of imagery to tease out the relationship of the false, the fake news and the truth, the oracles that are true, and the ways in which those are denied or affirmed.
We'll rebrand fake news as plastic.
Yes.
All right. So following the scene that we closed with now, I guess an hour ago, a chorus comes on, and then we get the appearance of Creon, some wrangling and arguing between Creon and Oedipus, and then finally Jocasta joins the party.
Why, my lady, do you pause before taking him indoors?
Tell me first what has occurred.
This misunderstanding flared from their words, and though not right, bitter language can still bite.
Was this quarrel on both sides?
Yes, both.
What were their words?
That's enough. It's best for our country to let rest.
You see, though meaning well, how you have gone too far with soothing and with taking off my edge.
Lord, I'd be a blatant fool, crazy with no sense at all if I turned my back on you. You who steered my country through pitching in a sea of pain. Now please guide us straight again.
Please let me know as well, my lord, what matter has stirred so fierce a fury in your heart?
I shall tell, seeing that I hold you, wife, more highly than these men. It is Creon. Such plots he's laid against my life.
As clearly as you can, explain just how this quarrel was provoked.
He says I was the murderer of Laius.
He claims to know this, or taking it from someone else?
He sent along a crooked prophet man to speak for him, so that he keeps his own mouth free from blame.
Then you can free yourself from those concerns. Just listen and I'll convince you. There is no one human knows the science of prophecy. And here's my pithy proof of this. One day, an oracle was brought to Laius, I don't say from Apollo, but his ministers, which said he was fated to be killed off by a son who would be given birth by me and him. Yet he, as is reported, was cut down by foreign bandits at a crossroads where 3 wagon tracks converge. As for the child, when he was less than 3 days old, he fixed its ankle joints together and put it into someone else's hands to be cast out on a trackless mountainside. And so Apollo never brought those things to pass. That boy was not his father's murderer, and Laius did not meet with that dreadful fate at his son's hand, as so he feared. Yet that is what the fortune-telling prophecies had mapped out in advance. So you should pay no attention, none. For when a god requires some course, then he will easily reveal it for himself.
Something you said just now has set my mind in turmoil, wife, and sent it on a wandering way.
What worry makes you flinch and speak like this?
Did I not hear you say that Laius was murdered where 3 wagon tracks converge?
That's how it was reported, and that is still the word.
What is the region where the deed took place?
The country is called Phocis. There, the track from Thebes divides, one way to Delphi, the other comes from Daulia.
And how much time has passed since this event?
It was announced in Thebes not long before you emerged as ruler here.
Oh, Zeus, what are you set on doing with my life?
What's this, Oedipus? So pressing on your mind?
Don't ask me. First, describe what Laius looked like and what stage of life he'd reached.
Well, he was tall. His hair was newly sprinkled gray and not dissimilar to you in build.
Oh, this is terrible. I think I've put myself, all unaware, beneath a dreadful curse.
What do you mean, my lord? I feel afraid to look at you.
I have a creeping fear the prophet can see clear. You would make things firmer with one answer more.
I'm frightened, but I'll answer anything you ask.
Did he travel in a simple style or like a head of state with lots of bodyguards?
The group was 5 in all, with one a herald, and there was just a single wagon carrying Laius.
Oh, God, this is too clear. But Who reported all these details at the time?
A slave, the one man to survive and come back home.
Is he by chance inside the house right now?
I know he's not, since after he returned and saw you in control upon the death of Laius, he grasped my hand and begged to be sent off to where the sheep flocks have their grazing grounds, so he might be as far away from any side of Thebes as he could be. And I agreed to send him there. He was deserving for a slave of even greater gratitude than this.
Could he be quickly fetched back here?
It's possible. But what makes you ask?
I am afraid I may have said too much aloud, and that is why I want to see him now.
Then he shall come. But surely I as well should rightly know, my lord, what weighs so anxiously upon your mind.
I shall not keep you in the dark. Not now that my forebodings have advanced so far, for there is no one with more right than you to know what trials I'm going through. My father's name was Polybus, the lord of Corinth. My mother, Dorian Merope. I grew up honored there as first among the citizens until a quirk of fortune struck, something surprising yet not worth all the trouble spent on it. There was this man at dinner who had drunk too much, and flushed with wine, he called out that I was not my father's true-born son. Although provoked, I just restrained myself that day. But on the next, I went and put the issue to my father and my mother. They were furious against the man who had let slip the insult. I was glad of their assurances. And yet, this kept on needling me and spreading. So, without my father and my mother knowing, I traveled secretly to Delphi. Apollo sent me off dissatisfied upon the matter that I went there for. Instead, he uttered loud and clear, foul and unbearable predictions. He said that I was bound to make love with my mother and exhibit progeny that people could not bear to look upon, and I would be the killer of the father who begot me. On hearing this, I turned my back upon the land of Corinth, and I used the stars to steer well clear of that direction, to somewhere that I could be sure I'd never see the shameful horrors of my evil oracle fulfilled. And as I journeyed on, my path came to that region where you say this king of yours was killed. Now, wife, I'll tell you all the truth. As I approached this three-road place, a herald came towards me with a man upon a horse-drawn cart, as you described. The one in front, with the old man's encouragement, began to use brute force to shove me off the road. I aimed a blow in anger at the one who hustled me, and then the old man kept a watch as I was passing by the cart and brought the double-spiked ends of his goad right down upon my head. Oh, he more than paid for that. I struck him sharply with my stick, and knocked down by this hand of mine, he toppled headlong from the wagon. I killed them, every man. If that stranger there was linked with Laius at all, then who can be more wretched than this man before you here? What human more detested by the gods? No citizens permitted to receive me in their house. No one can speak a word of greeting, but all must drive me from their homes. What's more, this curse was laid upon me by none other than myself. And I pollute the dead man's marriage bed by my embracing of his wife with those same hands as he was murdered by. Am I not evil, utterly unholy? I, who must be exiled from this land, and yet in exile never see my family, nor take one step upon my fatherland, as otherwise I'm bound to go to bed with my own mother and to kill old Polybus, the father who begot and raised me up. Someone who reckoned this would be cruel treatment by a god would have it right. By the great inviolate powers, I pray I never look upon that day. May I be blotted out from humankind before I see so foul a stigma branded on my life.
This makes us anxious, Lord. Yet keep up hope until you've heard the eyewitness.
Yes, that remains my thread of hope. To wait with patience for the shepherd man to come.
And when he has appeared, what is it that you want of him?
I'll tell you what. If he turns out to say the same as you, I shall then have escaped disaster's grip.
What is it that you heard me say especially?
You said he witnessed that it was a band of robbers that killed him. If he sticks by that number, robbers, then I was not the murderer. There's no way that one can ever equal many. If, on the other hand, he says it was a solitary man, the balance of that action clearly tips me down.
Well, that's certainly the story as it was reported then, and he cannot retract that back, since all the city heard, not me alone. And even if he does diverge from what he said before, it's still possible for him to make the death of, it's still impossible, not possible, impossible for him to make the death of Laius confirm the oracle. Apollo said that he was bound to meet death from my son, yet that poor infant never killed him, but itself died first. So as for prophecies, I never more shall peer this way or that because of them.
You speak good sense.
Mhm.
Yet, all the same, send someone off to fetch that laborer without fail.
I'll have him fetched at once. But now let's go indoors. I want to do whatever is your wish.
As the couple goes indoors, the chorus comes out, and they sing a song that has a moment where they say that arrogance grows tyrants, which sounds like it might be bad news. But then they say, well, I pray that the rivalry will never be put away if it's good for the state. And then Jocasta returns.
I thought it for the best, good gentlemen, to pay a visit to our temples with these wreaths and frankincense in hand. For Oedipus is too much tortured by all sorts of fleeting pains and does not gauge new thoughts by past experience, as should a thinking man. He's prey to anyone who plays on fear, and my advice no longer carries weight with him. Apollo, you are closest to our house. So first I turn to you as suppliant with these, my prayers. Please find for us purge without impurity. At present, we are alarmed to see him as the helmsman of our ship, so thunderstruck by fear.
And could you kindly tell me, strangers, where the house is of King Oedipus? Say where, or better still, the man himself. Do you know where?
This stranger is his house, but he's indoors. This lady is his wife and mother to his family.
Oh, well, may his lady wife then prosper happy and with happy ones around her.
I wish the same to you for these kind words, old stranger. But go on, what is it that you want, and what is it that you have to tell us?
Oh, happy news, my lady, for your household and your husband.
What may that be? And who is it that you come from?
Oh, I'm from Corinth, and the news I'm bringing will be pleasing, that's for certain. Yet you may feel sorrow also.
What's this? How can it have this double weight?
Well, first, the people there intend to make him ruler of the land of Corinth. That's what they're saying.
How come? Does ancient Polybus no longer rule?
No, because he's dead and buried.
What's this you say, old man? That Polybus is dead?
Strike me dead if it's not the truth I tell you.
Quick, go and tell this to your master. So you oracles sent by the gods, see where you stand. For ages, Oedipus has steered clear of this man for fear that he would kill him, and yet now he's died by random chance, not by his hand at all.
Oh, dearest wife, Jocasta, why have you called me to come here outside the house?
First, hear the news from this old man, then ask where all those solemn God-sent oracles have gone.
Who is this man? What is he to say to me?
He's come from Corinth to report your father is no longer. Polybus is dead.
What is this, stranger? Give your news yourself.
Well, if you want to hear my message plainly, then be certain he is dead, departed.
Was this by treachery, or did illness take it?
Just a little shift of balance sends old bodies to their rest.
It's from illness, then he died.
Yes, and all the many years he'd measured in his life.
Well, dear wife. So why should any man consult the mantic Pythian shrine or hearken to the birds which screech above our heads. On their authority, I was supposed to kill my father, but he's dead and laid beneath the earth while I stayed here, my blade at home untouched. Unless, perhaps he gave up life from missing me. That way he would have died because of me. In any case, old Polybus is resting down in Hades' house, and he has swept away these oracles of ours along with him, completely valueless.
And is that not what I've been telling you?
You have, but I've been led astray by fear.
Well, then stop treating things like this so seriously.
But I must surely live in fear of making love in my own mother's bed.
Why should we humans live in fear when fortune has control of us and there's no knowing anything with certain foresight? It's best to live and let things be so far as we're able to. That's why you should not fear or be afraid about this union with your mother. Just think of how many men have gone to bed beside their mothers in their dreams. The man who wastes no time on matters such as these can weather life most easily.
All your advice would be quite right. Were not my mother still alive. While she draws breath, I'm bound, however sensible your words, to live in dread.
At least your father's death shines an eye of reassurance.
That is a comfort, yes. I'm still in dread of her who lives.
May I ask, who is this woman you're so afraid about?
It's Merope, old stranger, wife of Polybus.
What about her makes you fearful?
Oh, there was a dreadful God-incited prophecy.
May another person hear it, or is it forbidden?
You may, of course. Apollo told me once that I was bound to sleep with my own mother and to shed my father's blood with my own hands. And that is why I have been keeping Corinth at a distance for so long. Meanwhile, I've prospered. Yet, how sweet it is to look in one's parents' eyes.
And in fear of that, you stayed away from there.
Yes, that, and not to be my father's murderer.
Well, since I've come in goodwill, I should free your lordship from this terror, surely.
If you could, I would reward you handsomely.
Oh, well, that is chiefly why I came here. So that once you're back home, I might be well rewarded.
But all the same, I'll never venture near my parents.
Son, it's clear you have no notion what you're doing.
Like, tell me what you mean, old man.
It's because of them you're steering clear of home.
That's right. For fear Apollo turns out to be true.
Meaning you would take pollution from your parents.
Precisely, old man. That's my constant dread.
But don't you realize that your fears are based on nothing?
How can that be? As long as I'm the offspring of those parents.
Because Polybus was not your bloodkin.
What did you say? Polybus was not my parent.
Not a fraction more than I am. Equally, in fact.
How can my father be the equal of a no one?
That man did not beget you, nor I neither.
What was the reason that he called me son?
You were once a present to him taken from these hands of mine.
If he'd had me from another's hands, how could he have loved me so?
He had long been childless, and that moved him.
And when you gave me, had you bought me or just come upon me?
It was in the forest glens of Mount Kithaeron that I found you.
Why were you traveling in those parts?
I was looking after flocks for summer pasture.
You mean you were a vagrant shepherd hired for pay?
True, my son. And yet I rescued at that crisis.
Why? What was wrong when first you took me up?
Well, your ankle joints could tell that story.
Oh, why bring up that old affliction?
Well, I released you from the clamps that pinned your feet together.
Oh, that humiliation I derived from infancy.
Yes, you take your name from that misfortune.
For God's sake, did my mother or my father do this thing to me? Speak out!
I've no notion. Oh, but the man who gave you must know better.
You mean you took me from another and you didn't come upon me by chance?
No, it was another shepherd passed you over to me.
Who was he? Can you say precisely who?
I think he was called the slave of Laius.
The man who used to be the ruler of this country here.
That's it. Yes, he was shepherd to that very man.
And is he still alive for me to see him?
Well, it's you locals who would know best the answer.
Does any among you among you people present know the shepherd that he means. You may have seen him working in the fields or here in town. Declare it, since the moment's come for all these things to be revealed.
I think he is none other than the peasant you were keen to see before. But it's Jocasta here should know this best.
Dear wife, you know the person that we summoned recently? Is he the one this man is speaking of?
It doesn't matter who he means. Pay no attention to it. Disregard his words as empty air and do not give these things a second thought.
That is impossible. When I have got such clues as these, I must reveal my origin.
No! By the gods, if you have any care for your own life, do not pry into this. My suffering's enough.
Take heart. For even if my mother is revealed to be a slave, 3-generation slave, you'll never be exposed as lowly born.
Please, listen to me. All the same, I beg of you, do not do this.
There is no way that you'll dissuade me. I have got to find these matters out for sure.
I'm thinking only of your good with this advice.
This thinking of my good has been annoying me.
Poor man. I only hope you never find out who you are.
Go, fetch that shepherd for me. Someone. Leave her to glory in her high-class pedigree.
Sorrow. Man of sorrow, that's the only title I can give to you and nothing other ever.
Why ever should your wife have rushed away in such a wild state of distress? I fear dark things will break out from her silence.
Well, let them break. And come what will. My seedbed, still, I need to see it clear, however humble. She has superior ideas, as women do, and may well be ashamed of my low family. But I regard myself as born the child of fortune in her generosity, and I shall never be demeaned by that. She is my mother, and the months my brothers have delineated me as humble, then as great. With such a pedigree, I never shall turn out as other than I am, and never rest till I've discovered my true blood.
So I always think that seeing that scene performed is so much more riveting than reading it. Because when you're reading it, you know, you jump in ahead to see what's next. And I don't know how we can say anything without talking about Jocasta, right? She's amazing. So Amy, to you first, like, you see Jocasta in this scene. What do you think?
Well, I can't take my eyes off her. I'm always looking to see when is the moment that she realizes and decides to try to protect Oedipus from the knowledge that she now has. She is so the core of this play in so many ways. I'm realizing again and again. And she just expressed some of the things that we were talking about earlier before she understands what's happening. Why should we humans live in fear when fortune has control of us and there's no knowing anything with certain foresight? It's best to live and let things be so far as we are able to. And in putting on this play and reading this play, every time I think about this play, it seems to me to be Sophocles exploring that problem that we have, that events are outside of our control. And so what do we do in that situation? She expresses that, and then she knows what's coming. She figures it out first, and it's riveting. And we watch her go and leave him to his bad decisions.
Well, and I think is that the lines you just read, there's a bit of an eat, pray, love thing going on there, right? We're just going to get by. It's going to be okay. And there's like, it's just completely undone as we move on. And so, David, when I'm teaching this, I always say, I have students say when they think Jocasta knows. How important do you think that is? And where are you in sort of her character?
Say what Jocasta knows. That's what you said. Yeah. Yeah, it's again, the underlying mystery of this play is how well it conveys that ambiguity I was talking about earlier, and ambivalence generally. And when one knows, how does one know how one can live knowing and denying? think the idea of passing is quite an interesting idea to apply to this play, because when she knows but she wants to deny it, then she's passing. Oedipus is passing as a king, as a knower, but he's totally ignorant. He accuses other people of passing. Tiresias is passing as an expert, but actually he's just this venal figure who's easily bribed. One of the things I really like in this scene is that Jocasta comes on and she is a suppliant. So the play, in a sense, is a series of supplications in different ways. And I wish I had been there to see this, because she says, I thought it for the best, good gentlemen, to pay a visit to our temples with these wreaths and frankincense in hand. So I imagine that the actor came on with wreaths and with frankincense. This is in the theatre of Dionysus, and perhaps there's a statue of Apollo, one can surely imagine. And she makes her supplications before this statue, and it's the enactment of a common Greek religious rite, indistinguishable from real rites. I mean, it's the performance, the mimesis of a rite, and you see that in various other plays as well. Like in the first surviving Greek tragedy we have is The Persians by Aeschylus, and in which Persian Queen Atossa, she conjures a ghost, and she goes through, even though she's Persian, she does it in very Greek style. She uses water to cleanse herself, and so I'm especially drawn to this confusion of the mimetic and the actual, which I think we see in a rite like.
I love that, especially with the comment about passing, because when we talk about a playwright like Euripides, we know that meta theater, right, is so much of what he's doing. But in this scene, and listening to you two talk about it, I mean, how much are Oedipus and Jocasta are always already pretending, right? So how does it? So when you see stagings of this, Amy, or think about them, how much do you see sort of meta theatrical motifs being critical to this scene as well?
I think they're always there. I see Sophocles playing with what theater can do almost as much as Euripides. I know we think about that as with Euripides the most, especially because of Bacchae, but I think Sophocles is very interested in different levels of truth. And that is so much what this play is dealing with all the time. And we are, as audience, who feel ourselves somewhat to be Thebans, even though we're Athenians or Washingtonians or whatever we are. We have different levels of truth as we're watching. We watch him in denial, although soon afterwards, I was just realizing he's in denial. He comes up, and then he's like, but maybe actually this year, like, it doesn't take him long to let that frenzy go away. And so he's got different levels of truth. He's allowing for the possibility that he might be the murderer, although he can't fathom yet the idea that he might have fulfilled this fate that he was told about. So I think, and of course, all the different levels of truth that we all know about with the actors enacting these people who they aren't. They are not these heroic age people. They are not the sex of some of the, that's a man playing Jocasta in a mask. It's whoever plays Tiresias is not blind. Oedipus doesn't actually blind himself at the end. So we have all these levels of truth that we negotiate all the time. And I think that Sophocles is very skillful at asking us to do that, and then and do that really complexly in a play about truth and knowledge.
Yes, I completely agree, and I think the meta theatrical and meta poetic dimension is present throughout. And I like at line 938, Jocasta says, "What's this? How can it have this double weight?" And I think the Greek she uses there is this diples dunamis. How can it have this double strength? And just from the point of view of passing, this is the theatre of Dionysus, a god who is accused of passing as a god, but is in fact mortal. But he is actually a god, and he gives this gift to human beings of theatre, in which, as Amy was saying, we pass this is the nature of representation, that we, as Coleridge said, we deploy a willing suspension of disbelief. But that equally applies not just to representation, but to social life, because the human social world is one of conventions in which we submit and assent to certain ideas and agreements, which the Greeks called nomoi, and the relationship of nomos, of these conventions, to reality, to physis, is another important theme in this play and in other Greek tragedies, because human beings, you know, we're all passing. We're passing as, and I think this is also a sub-theme of the play, as human beings, as Homo sapiens, when actually we are insapiens, as Oedipus says. We're passing as not being animals. Clearly we are animals. And we're passing in the sense, and this comes up in Greek literature all the time, that we're going to keep living, but actually we're going to die. And that's something we deny. And that's what Greek tragedy is trying to impress upon us all the time, is that stop passing as if you are not mortal, because you are mortal and ephemeral.
But if I can add to that, because you brought up duplace dunamis. So yes, strength for dunamis, but of course that strength comes from this other idea in dunamis, which is capability. And I feel like that all the things that humans are capable of, including fooling ourselves, but also making the best of things, and also discovering the truth, even if it's horrible, and also understanding that we are mortal. I think Sophocles is playing with all of those things.
And what I really value about what both of you brought out there with human society at its fundamental level being role playing is that Oedipus doesn't deny that maybe he's playing a role, right? But his first issue is about the extent to which his role is being defined. So before the speech ended, he's like, well, she's really upset because I might be lowborn, but that's okay, right? He's been faking it till he made it for 20 years now. So he's all right because he can't accept what's coming next. And so what comes next is a confirmation of the shepherd's tale. And I think one of the great tragedies of this tragedy is we see so little of Jocasta, which probably is what gives her so much power, because the chorus comes out with another interlude before a messenger comes reporting of Jocasta's death. And that's where we'll start the next scene.
Oh, I am sorrow. Where upon earth am I carried? Where in the air flutters my voice? Such a distance, my demon, you darted.
To somewhere dread, not to be heard, not to be spied.
Black, black, overshadowing my dark mind, unbearable, bestial, no fair wind. Agony, yet again, the spike of these spasms in my unkind memories both stab me full with pain.
It is no wonder that amid such sufferings you double grief and double your lament.
You, still remaining with me, loyal friend, and staying to care for me, though blind. I sense your presence in my mind clearly. I recognize your sound, even with darkness all around.
It's such a dreadful deed. How bring yourself to blot your eyes like this? Which god incited you?
Apollo, friends, Apollo it was made my fate grow ill, so ill. But my own hand, no other, struck and made me blind. Why should I see when nothing sight could show could offer me delight?
These things were, as you say.
What can I watch, or what love, or what greeting could still move delight? Take me from these lands, take me all disaster, friends, the man through and through accursed, hated by the gods, the worst.
Both your fortune and your state of mind are dark indeed. I wish I'd never, ever crossed your path.
Oh, curse him, whoever he may be, took the harsh fetters and set free my feet, saved me from fateful extinction. Did no favor. Dead, I would not have brought pain on me and those I call my own.
I too would wish the same.
And then I would not ever have come to kill my father, not have been called the bridegroom of her that I was born from. But now I am the fruit accursed of him who sowed my life first. If there is sin primeval, Oedipus has that evil.
I cannot say I think you well advised. Better dead than still alive and blind.
Oh, don't try to preach to me that what I've done was not done for the best. And stop advising me. I cannot think how I could ever have set seeing eyes upon my father down in Hades, nor upon my wretched mother, since I have so offended both of them that hanging would not be enough. Or was the sight of my own children, misbegotten as they were, a prospect to be longed for? Not ever with these eyes of mine, no, never. Nor ever see this city, its great walls and sacred images, from which I have excluded my own self, though raised to be the greatest man in Thebes, by telling everyone to keep at bay the man accursed, now marked unholy by the gods, and of the blood of Laius, when I have coated such a stain upon myself. Was I to look upon these things with open eyes? No. Not at all. If only there had been a way to block the flow of hearing, I'd have made my wretched body all encased, both blind and hearing nothing. For it's sweet to live with mind beyond the reach of pain. Oh, Mount Catharon, why accept me in your arms? Why not hold on and kill me there and then, so that I never would have shown the world where I was born from? Oedipus and Corinth, old ancestral home by name, you bred me with a skin so beautiful, an abscess underneath, since now I'm found to be infection from infected blood. You, three roads and secretive ravine and thicket with that narrow place where three ways meet, who drank my blood, spilt by my hands, blood of my father's blood. Do you remember still the acts that I committed there? And then what I went on to do once I'd come here? Oh, wedding, bedding, making love. You first engendered me, and then once born, emitted that same seed. And so you brought to light fathers who were brothers, children who had sibling blood, and brides who were both wives and mothers, along with all the other acts which are the most repugnant for humanity. But it's not right to put in words what's wrong to act in deeds. So now, at once, I beg you, throw me out somewhere, or kill me off, or hide me deep beneath the ocean waves where you'll not see me evermore. Come on, feel free to touch this wretched man. Believe me, don't be frightened. For no one else of humankind is fit to bear my tainted burden but myself.
But here comes Creon at the proper time to deal with what you're asking for, in action or with planning. He's the only person left to guard our country in your place.
Oh, what on earth am I to say to him? How can I hope to gain his trust? Now it's emerged that I so clearly did him wrong.
I have not come to ridicule you, Oedipus, nor censure you for any wrongs now past. Yet I am shocked to find you wandering outside like this. But even if you've lost your sense of shame in front of mortal men, at least respect the blaze of mighty sun that nurtures all. Do not expose a blight to be like this, uncovered, a thing that neither earth nor holy rain nor light can find acceptable. Accompany him inside the house immediately, for piety requires that only family should see and hear the troubles of their own.
Since you have made yourself extend so far beyond my expectations, and best of men have come to me, the worst. Please do this for me. It is for you I ask, not myself.
What is this wish that you're so keen to gain of me?
To cast me out beyond this land as soon as possible, to somewhere where there'll be no human to encounter me.
I would for sure have done this, but I wanted first to know for certain from the god what moves to take.
Oh, but this whole message was made clear. The father killer, the abomination. I should be destroyed.
Yes, that was said, but we are now at such a pass, it's better to make doubly sure what should be done.
So you'll consult about a man as abject as I am?
Yes, and this time you'll have to trust the god.
I ask from you then that you'll follow these instructions. First, the woman in the house. Give her the funeral you wish, for you should rightly lay to rest your own. But as for me, you should not ever make this city of my fathers have to harbor me alive in it. No. Let me go and live up in the mountains. There, this mountain, which is famed as mine, my own Catharon. The place my mother and my father, when alive, had designated as my proper tomb. So then I'll die as they had meant to make an end of me. And yet of this I'm sure, that no disease or any other cause could cut me down, because I never would have been preserved from death except to face some fearsome doom. So much for my own destiny. Let it go where it will. As for my children, Creon, you need not go to any trouble for the males. They're men and never shall lack livelihood wherever they may be. But for my girls, my two poor, pitiable daughters, whose dinner table never has been set in separation from myself, and who have shared in everything that I have put my hands to, I charge you, take good care of them. Please, first, allow me just to touch them with my hands and to lament our miseries. Do this, my lord. Do this, true, noble man. If only I could feel them in my arms, that I might sense that they were mine, as when I used to have my sight. Oh, what is this? I think that I can hear them, can't I? My two dear ones shedding bitter tears. And Creon have felt pity and have had my darling girls fetched for me. Can I be right?
You are. I have arranged for this because I know what great delight they'd bring you now, as you have always felt for them.
Thank you from my heart, and hope that on your way God will protect you far better than me. And my children, where are you? Come here, this way toward my arms, your brother's arms, which now have taken on this function of this kind of seeing from your father's eyes, which used to shine so bright. The man who, all unlooking and unasking, has turned out to be the plowman who grew harvest in the field that he was grown from. I weep for you, although I cannot see, as I reflect how bitter your whole life will be, the kind of life that people will impose upon you. What city gatherings will you go along to, and what festivals without returning home in tears instead of heartened by the spectacle? And once you have arrived at readiness for marriage, who will he be? The man who'll gamble on the danger of incurring all those slurs and insults that will damage both his children and him too. What horror is there absent? Your father was the killer of his father. Then he plowed and sowed the mother from whom he had himself been seeded. Then begot you from the source that gave him birth. Such are the taunts that will be thrown at you. And who then shall marry you? There can be no one will, girls, but you're bound to wither barren as unmarried maids. Son of Meneceus, as you were the only father left for these two girls, now we, their parents, have both been eradicated. Don't stand idly by while they, your kin, go wandering poor and husbandless. Don't bring them down to my low depths. Take pity on them, seeing how they are so young and stripped of everything except what you could do for them. Show your agreement, noble lord, by reaching out your hand and touching me. For you, my daughters, were you old enough to understand, I would give much advice. But now instead, just hope and pray for this, that you may live wherever best you can and may enjoy a better life than has the father who begot you.
That is long enough for weeping. Time to go inside the palace.
I have got to, though it's far from welcome.
All things have their proper moment.
Let me tell you my conditions.
Speak and then I will know them.
That you cast me from this country.
That's the gods' gift you're demanding.
But it's clear the gods detest me.
If that's so, you'll soon obtain it.
So you are agreeing.
When I'm short of knowledge, I don't idly chatter.
Hurry me away then.
Go, then. Time for parting with your daughters.
No, do not take them from me.
Useless wanting to remain all-powerful, since the power that you wielded has not stayed beside you all your lifetime.
Look at this, my fellow Thebans. This is Oedipus before you. He who solved the famous riddle, he who was so powerful, widely envied for his fortune. What a howling tempest of disaster he has voyaged into. Think of this, and no human being happy, not while they're still waiting for that final sunset, not until they've run their course and passed the finished post without disaster.
So one of the things that will forever strike me about this play is you remember it being about figuring out the truth. And then everybody knows the truth at line 1000, and there are 500 lines left to the play. So I guess maybe, David, I'll start with you on that one. One of my great open-ended questions. What does that last third of the play do for us? What do we gain from it that we would lose if we didn't have Oedipus's moments after being blinded?
Well, it's a perfect consummation of a play about someone who is, as I described him earlier, a moral being. Because he could, there are versions, actually in Homer, in the Iliad, or the Odyssey, in the Iliad, Oedipus is referred to just in like 2 or 3 lines. But there, after he finds out what he's done, he just continues living with Jocasta. Obviously, there are many different versions of Oedipus. There are most of them are lost versions by Euripides and Aeschylus and all the other poets whose works don't survive. But what's really striking about this play is that he, like so many Greek tragedies, it's a play about agency. And we see the radical degree to which human beings, and people still don't accept this, but it's true, are constrained by contingent, by arbitrary forces that shape our lives. But in what does our agency in here? Because we do have some agency. It's in our moral capacities to want what's good, even if we don't do what's good. And that's what's great about Sophocles, about Oedipus, is that he wants to find out the truth, and he doesn't just want to get away with it. He wants, in whatever way possible, to recuperate, to make up for what has happened, even though from the beginning he tried to avoid this fate. And he couldn't avoid it, and he's not culpable in the sense that we today in a modern courtroom would understand culpability. So it consummates this idea of his profound morality, the integrity that I spoke about earlier, that you don't see in tyrants around the world today, and most people want to just get away with what they can. But he doesn't want to die. That would be the easy way out. And so it's the perfection of the play is in this last part.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine almost any American politician, much less a tyrant, saying, you know what, I messed up, I deserve this. Amy, you speak about different versions of the play, different versions of Oedipus with Sophocles. One of the things that strikes me that's important about different about the end of this play is that his girls are young. Right.
Yes.
And it made me think of Socrates joking the apology, like, I'm not going to bring my kids up here and like have them cry. By the way, I have kids. Right? It made me think of that, but also like what a striking choice. And how
Yes.
that differs from Sophocles' own versions about it. So what have you done with this scene before, and what do you make of it?
Well, you asked about what the last third of the play is for, and you also mentioned earlier the things we miss when we just read it. The girls don't have any lines, but they're on stage. And so if you're just reading it, of course, you don't have the visual impact. You don't see him embracing his children. René did a beautiful job of having us feel their presence, but having them there reacting, and they're, as you say, they're young, reacting to this horrible sight of their father, reacting to his grief, and being handed off in this weird way by Creon, and everything's uncertain for them, but we see them and feel sorry for them. It humanizes Oedipus again as he takes in this unspeakable stuff, that he's supposed to be the most polluted man ever. At the same time, he cares about the fate of his daughters. And we see them in his embrace in a very warm family way that I think again brings out the things you've been saying, David, about his morality, and the things that he's how good he's attempting to be. And we often talk about this play as nothing actually happens in it. The whole thing, all of the horrible stuff has already happened. And what that really means is there was nothing he could do. There's no way he could fix this. Everything has happened before he had any sense that there was anything for him to fix. By the time he knows that there is an oracle about the plague, about finding the murderer, you can't go back on anything. There are 4 children. There's a dead father. You can't change any of those things.
Put the kids back.
Can't put the kids back. And so I think what we see, I keep saying this, but what we see again is these people this person in an impossible situation, but also him still, even after he's blinded himself, trying to do the best. And we have that last third of the play to see to let the audience see what he does and give us a chance to react to it, to let the chorus see it and give them a chance to have him be sympathetic or grotesque, depending on how we react and how it's staged.
So I'm convinced by both of you then. But I do want to highlight though that bit where Oedipus says, you know what, don't worry about my sons. They're boys,
Well,
they'll handle it. Right. We're all like, whoa. They're not going to turn out so well. Right.
That's
Right?
true. That's true.
And I also think like if we were to do a modern retelling or reimagining, you said nothing happens in the play, but for those girls,
That's
in
true.
an hour,
That's
it's
true.
in the death of their mother and the blinding of their father.
That's true. Their world,
Right.
their world has completely been overturned.
And I mean and so again, that's something that until seeing it performed by René, I really hadn't given it like flesh and blood in my mind. So as you all know, what we like to do near the end is bring the actors in for conversation. I don't know what the video scene is like here. So maybe we'll just pass mics around since Olivia in the back can do magic here. So I don't know, who do you want to start with? David, who would you like to ask questions of first?
René.
Yeah, so René Thornton Jr. I haven't introduced people yet.
Hello. Thank you all. Thank you.
How did you experience? It's not very often that one gets to see and hear this text brought to life so well and movingly. And the life of a scholar can be a bit. This is the text we have is a libretto of something. It was so much, as you know, so much more a total experience with music and dancing. What do you think of Oedipus, and how do you experience reading the way that you do?
Well, I was very glad to hear about both yours and Amy's perspective on Oedipus, because I do feel like I just don't think it's a particularly interesting play to watch if someone is a jerk and a monster, and then we just watch him continue to be a jerk and a monster for 90 minutes, and we're like, why? Or I also don't find it particularly interesting dramatic structure either. And so then I have to look at like, well, what is more interesting here, and where's the love, and where does Oedipus's love reside, and who does he love? And then I feel like it's a more interesting journey, and certainly more fun to play as well.
I feel like, where does Oedipus's love reside? That's an interesting way of framing it. But again, Yocasta takes care of that.
I would love to ask Jasmine how you were so playful until
Jasmine Bracey.
Oh, right. Sidelines.
your Jocasta had a wonderful twinkle and playfulness until she doesn't. How did you come to that? And was that new for you? Had you spent time with her before?
I've actually never done a Greek play before. I realized while we were talking, I went, oh, like I know all the plot lines because I studied it in theater history, but outside of doing like a 15-minute Bacchae, like I've actually never performed a Greek play. And so I love this translation, number one, because I went, oh yeah, this is the words don't seem so poetic or foreign in a way that sometimes I work a lot on Shakespeare, that becomes its own navigation. This was much more accessible in some ways. But with her, I'm always curious about the classics because of the way psychology is moved. So classic story structure is so just in the story of it, versus once we had Ibsen and other playwrights, once Freud came around, we now get this like psychological internal thing that goes on. But stories of the classics are so much more fun to investigate because you really, as the actor, have to serve the story structure. Like when we were talking about when does she know, in order for the other actors to have the need to speak, she can't know early on, because if she does, there's nothing to convince, there's no journey to go on. So how do you incrementally go, really? No. Insert expletive here.
Right.
And right, like, so how do you like make it progressive so that way there is somewhere to go? And it's truly like the beautiful challenge for the actor of how do you not give away the ending so that you can actually play the journey. I forgot the question.
I think you kind of answered it because of the you had playfulness to go from, so that once you had the realization, it was that much more horrible, it was that much more dark, and served the play.
Yeah, I think what you also really brought to it is something that, again, in my obtuseness, never really thought about. Like, why can't Yocasta be likable, right? Like, she could be fun, right? She could be a totally great person to be around. And so, like, when you came in, I was like, maybe someone might want to marry Yocasta for good reasons, right?
Actually,
There's a line that she says that we actually had to talk about once where she's like, I mean, how many men go to bed dreaming of being with their mothers? And I went, what? No. And then I was like, oh, maybe in Greece, like everybody's a MILF. Like, there's this idea that the Grecian women are, somebody that you want to hang out with.
There's also, I can't remember the name of the author, who uses that line as a way to completely topple Freud's Oedipal complex, right? As well as a reading of the play. There's like, actually, he tried really hard not to, and this is just a thing they knew about. Not a big deal, right? So no, I love that you settled on that line as sort of being a hinge moment. Like,
Yeah.
right. So Tamika Chavis, thank you. As Tiresias, which you've also been in so many of our performances. Tiresias, though, is not a character we've given you before, I don't think, right?
No, I don't think so. Nope.
So what was it like to get into that particular mind?
As someone who You brought me here. You don't want to listen to the truth. Okay, now I want to go home. You won't listen. So peace out.
I love,
Yeah.
I loved how
It's a-
calmly you did the whole thing. You didn't get angry. You didn't like rise to the bait. You said the angry things.
Mhm.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, because it definitely gives a sense that Tiresias has been here. He knows what's going to be said.
Yeah.
Just going through the motion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, can I just say something related to what was being said about Jocasta?
Yeah.
Uh, about the complexity, the contradictoriness of that character, because as I said earlier, she, you see her, you don't hear it reported, you see her in a sacred ritual act, but she's also very dismissive, almost blasphemously so, of the oracles which belong to Apollo. But then she's also, supplicating Apollo. So she's not a straightforward, a simple character. So I like the idea of twinkle, but on the other hand, I think one has to be a very good actor to bring out that twinkle. In Greek drama, there's some disagreement in the interpretation of Greek drama about the admixture of tones, of solemnity, seriousness, and humor. So there's a big disagreement, for example, about how to play in Bacchae, what to do, because some people who I think can be a bit simplistic say, well, in Greek tragedy is tragic, and there can't be. It would be self-deflating in a non-solemn, in a non-tragic, in an unsuitable way to have laughter on stage. So they'll say that even though there are several words for laughter and smiling in a play like that about Dionysus, who's clearly wearing a mask, the actor, with a smile on it, people still say no, he couldn't have been joking when he says this. But I just want to say that the idea of twinkle for me touches upon the idea of tonal complexity and contradictoriness, which I think is one of the joys of Greek drama.
And one of the actors in last week's performance, because we were talking about the end of, wait, were we doing Agamemnon?
Oh, no.
Sorry, Electra.
Electra.
Right, was mentioning that, little moments of humor make it possible for you to like actually reset and then build up the tension again. Right, you can't spend 1,500 lines like about to explode.
There are hilarious moments in Bacchae, but Sophocles' Electra has my favorite. Like, we never let Socrates be funny or light because of this thing about it always supposed to be tragic. And I know that we're running short on time, but my favorite example is actually in Sophocles' Electra, where they find the brother and sister finally figure out that Orestes is alive, and they're like, and she's singing the song because it's amazing that he's alive, and he's like, shut up, quiet, you'll ruin the plan. And it has to be funny. There's no way it's not funny. Sophocles knew what he was playing with that, or knew what he was doing. It has to be funny. And
connected to that, something that I was hoping I could get a chance to mention today is the prominence or the presence of slaves. So the prominence in Greek comedy of slaves, the presence here of slaves. And just as you were talking, I was wondering, there's a scene that wasn't read today of what in Greek is called basanos. That is getting the truth out of someone, a slave in ancient Athens, through torture. I think the word is aikisma is the word that Sophocles uses here. I wonder if that was supposed to be funny. Obviously, and it's just something to consider, because obviously we wouldn't find it funny, but we shouldn't project our own values into Greek drama and try to and distort it that way. Invariably we will. But on the topic of slavery, which is very to a foreign alien in the United States, very striking, bizarre thing here, and very present in a place like Washington, D.C., it just leaps out to me, all the references to slaves and slavery, to a torture scene of a slave. And again, to come back to the topic of passing, he says, well, my identity, I might actually be a slave. And he starts assuming that he has slavish origins, and that she's just embarrassed about that. So that's one of the subjacent themes that I find quite striking.
And I agree with you there. I mean, the abuse of an enslaved person is such an important motif in comedy.
Yeah.
The notion that we'll create these generic walls that you can't pass through is just, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Because the audience is the same.
Yeah.
They don't like put on a cone of ignorance every time they come into a tragic performance. Sarah Tisdale, Creon.
Yeah.
So thank you. We haven't had you online with us before, so you didn't get the full experience, right? What was this
No.
like compared to what you usually do? And what's your sort of vision of Greek tragedy from this?
Oh my gosh. Well, I did Lysistrata in college, as one does. But I've never done Greek tragedy. And I actually have a little bit of training in one of the conservatories I went to. We had a whole unit on Greek tragedy and looking at the poetry and the rhetoric and ekphonesis and how to, like literally in front of students and teachers, just like until they believed you had to keep doing it over and over again. So this was such a delight for me. I've also sort of my graduate training is in Shakespeare, and I do a lot of contemporary stuff. And Greek plays are so hard to do, and I think that's why they're kind of rarely done. But I was geeking out. I got an email about this, I think yesterday, and I was like, I will be there. And then Creon is just like so fun. I mean, I just politicians, the new tyrant who's coming in, he sees an opportunity, but also feels, I think, real shame and love for his family members who are causing quite the scene. So I think you kind of see, as with Antigone and Ismene coming in at the very end, you kind of see Creon's ascendance, and it's just a wide open field for the chaos to continue and the tragedy continue. So I just had such a blast today. Thank you so much for having this series and giving these opportunities to actors.
Thank you for joining us. So we are over time, but that's okay. I do, before I pass over to Paul, I do want to recognize some people. So John Coley, who's here, right? I want to recognize him for the images that we've had 61, 62 times in a row now. This is our 61st episode, are all coming from John. And there's also there's a collection of like B-rolls of images that didn't quite make it, or jokes. Someday I'd love to see a gallery of it.
Oh, yeah.
The work's really great. Olivia Henderson in the back is taking over quite competently for our old crew and keeping things going. Zoe, right, who here in the center has been supporting us for so long. This has just been, honestly, like, when I've told the story before, but Paul and I showed up on a Zoom meeting in March of 2020, both wanting to do something. And Keith at the time was like, why don't you guys talk and put something together? And we started this like that week. And it hasn't seemed seamless at any point, but it's functioned because of the half dozen people who are in the background making Zoom run, making the images. And also telling us they like what we're doing. Paul and I don't need a lot of feedback, positive feedback. We'll survive a little bit, but that little bit keeps us going. So Paul, before we sign off today, returning to Oedipus, what was it like?
It was great, and it's just wonderful. Just like last week as well, when we were able to meet in Chicago and read Sophocles' Electra, it's just so wonderful to be able to be in the same space as people. And do this, and just to pick up something that was being kind of mentioned in terms of lightness or comedy or humor that might exist within it, and something that we were talking about the other day, I can't remember exactly when, was kind of connected. Also, it's just so important to remember that each one of these characters doesn't know that they're in a tragedy. They're not sort of waking up. And of course, there is a bad situation. There is a plague on in this, sort of there's always something not ideal going on, but they haven't woken up kind of going, oh, I'm in Oedipus. Oedipus isn't saying, oh, I'm in the tragedy of Oedipus today. Oh, maybe I'll just stay in bed. and so that everyone's trying to kind of get out of that situation. They're not just going to sit in the grief and the awfulness. That actually you want to fight to be active. And sometimes if you're in a bad situation, you try and cheer yourself up as well, right? So I think finding those moments of lightness, humor is really important within kind of the the more sort of sort of awful moments that then kind of regularly come along as well. But I just wanted to say like a huge thank you also to you, Joel, for everything that you've done part of this series, and to Amy and David for being here and being so wonderful today as well. So good thank you on that. Obviously I would echo all of the thanks that Joel has given, and I just wanted to mention as well that we have 3 more episodes coming up as part of this mini season that we have. So in just over 2 weeks' time, on the 19th of April, we will be staging online a musical version of Amphitruo, and then later on we'll be early in May. I think actually the date is TBC, isn't it? On that one is we're going to be reading Seneca's Medea, and then we end this mini season with a puppet version of the battle between the frogs and the mice. So that will be kind of like then complete our mini season, and it's just wonderful to kind of have the opportunity to carry on exploring all of these different texts, plays, poems, all sorts with such brilliant people. So thank you.
For that one, I think the poet and translator extraordinaire A.E. Stallings may be joining us, but we'll be using her translation and permission. And I think, well, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Everyone take care, be well. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody who's here in person, you're awesome. Everybody online, you're awesome too. And tune in for our, for Heracles, right? Some frogs, and some more deep tragedy with Seneca. Take care.